Welcome to Under Review. This is a podcast all about politics, culture, and sports, and the intersection of sports and society. I'm Lexie Braymeyer.
And I'm Monique Lewis. We know that sports and culture are two threads on the same tapestry. If we made a Venn diagram, it would be a circle, and many people accept this. The Super Bowl is a huge American holiday, and the sport itself is a huge part of American culture. But a fact that more people are resistant to is that there is a third circle layered on top of this Venn diagram, and that is politics, which can be exhausting, and we know that people want to decouple politics from their leisure pastime, but we can't.
We cannot. No.
Exactly. So we want to talk about why this podcast is important, but first we want to introduce ourselves. So Lexie.
Yeah, starting off, my name is Lexie. I originally came from a super small town, Central Illinois. I went to the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign and focused on a background in sports management. It wasn't until recently or later on in my career that I decided to focus more on sports broadcasting, and what drew me to sports was the understanding of sport as a tool and it's not entertainment, and it offers a platform and it offers education to those who may not be able to have that. And also just offers a voice and a platform for those who don't have a platform. How many times can I say platform? To emphasize really why I was drawn to sports is I was actually taught this by Dr. Yannick Clutch, so shout out him at the University of Illinois, but sports is a tool. It truly is nonetheless of entertainment. It's everything but entertainment and more. So we'll get into that, but I decided to come to Northwestern Medill to expand my knowledge on sports and using it as a tool. So with sports broadcasting, I hope to be able to incorporate sports in their ideology with broadcasting and being able to tell people's stories in a relatable sense. Again, I think it is so important that we as society, we understand that sports and what we're doing in the world of sports is not just to please your TV viewer at home, but it's to take a stand, and that stand is hopefully towards the right way of society. I feel like as a whole, we're kind of going back in a few ways, more than few. I actually want to correct myself, but with that, I hope that we can almost marry sports and politics to create a better understanding, and especially for those who maybe aren't as fluent in politics, they can become fluent with sports and politics and vice versa.
Right, absolutely. I'm Monique. I grew up in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. Bear down. Always.
Bear down. I forgot to say ILL as well.
Yes. Oh, well, no. Bula bula, baby. With that, I went to Yale where I studied history. I've always loved history because you can't understand where we are in the world without understanding our context. I've always believed that. And so, yeah, so then with sports, it's the same way. History has shows us where sports are, where we are, where our political situation is. So my background in history totally influences how I consume and enjoy sports, which is why I'm so excited to do this podcast with you.
Literally same.
Let's get started. What is a political and sports moment that has impacted you, Lexie?
That is a great question. I first and foremost kind of want to touch on sports really quickly because I didn't get to mention this in my introduction, but I just need to preface that athletes and leagues, they aren't entertainment, they're influencers, they're challengers, and they amplify voices that might not be able to be heard in everyday society. But a specific moment, that's really hard for me to choose just one. I feel like there's a lot of monumental ones, but for me, it would definitely be during the height of the racial justice movement when the NBA, they decided to wear BLM across their shirts, Black Lives Matter. And I think that that's just so prominent and important, obviously, every year. But in 2020, I feel like there was really light shed on systemic injustices across America. But with that, it was, to me, it was real people taking real risks and creating a true movement. Obviously, I don't think BLM started with athletes. I do think that they, though, really took it and carried it on. And now that is why we're still having a conversation about it today, as we should be. And that's why it's on the forefront of our brains. Like the Bears having in racism in their end zones and on the back of their helmet. Like this stuff it's going to be a constant conversation because the world does not change overnight. And unfortunately, we as society, we're just still so slow. And without these conversations, we're not going to advance or go anywhere in the world. So to me, obviously, there's not a specific moment I'm talking about, but I just think in general, like having these uncomfortable conversations and not even uncomfortable, but just like shedding light on these real issues in America is kind of what has really impacted me the most, in seeing athletes be raw and real about what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I love that example. And it honestly touches on my example as well. Something that really impacted me was Colin Kaepernick taking a knee in 2016 to protest racial injustice in America. I mean, it empowered me as I was in 8th grade to not feel like I had to, stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance and celebrate America in these small, minute, like kind of
for a country that's not celebrating you and your authenticity.
Exactly. So, but then to your point, what made it so much more impactful too is that, I mean, as a Black person, I've been aware of the movement since its inception, right? And I was writing essays about Black Lives Matter when I was like in like the 6th grade, but all the names, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner, they were kind of just like people weren't paying attention, at least in my very predominantly white community. They were being swept under the rug. And so someone like Colin Kaepernick, everyone watches football. So he brought those names back into the light and brought that conversation back into the light. And even though the conversation oftentimes felt more like an argument about, whether or not he was being like respectful.
Why do we think that it's like an argument? Why does everything have to go to an argument?
I know. I mean, the Black Lives Matter movement itself is an argument,
Correct.
The counter argument was being all lives matter. But then again, what made Colin Kaepernick's stance so powerful was that, like, that league is so backed by the military. Like the fans are super American, like we were saying in our intro. Football is a deeply American sport. It supports the military supports it back, and so it really touched the heartstrings of a lot of people. And again, that's why it was so impactful. I feel like people forget that protesting is inherently disruptive. It has to catch your attention. It has to shake something up. And so that's what made it so impactful. But yeah, so then it obviously got people mad for that exact reason.
But I guess my question to you is, where and how do we regulate protesting? Because what's fair and what's not fair? Obviously, Colin Kaepernick completely blacklisted from the league, whereas more recently there was a white NFL player proclaiming his support for Trump.
Nick Bosa.
Yes. 49ers,
hat.
San Francisco, right? Okay. Wearing a MAGA hat on live television. Obviously, two very different types of protests, but at the same time, very similar, both about political views and their political stances. So and he had no blacklist. Matter of fact, he's playing today now on one of the best teams in America.
Right.
Is there a right or wrong way to protest as an athlete?
Right. I mean, as I was like saying in the last one, there technically isn't a right way to protest because it has to make a statement. It has to be bold. So there isn't a right way, but it's always about the response. And the response is always going to be different. Like Nick Bosa, like you said, is still playing. He was fine and everyone kind of just moved on.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick was never able to find a job again, even though he took the 49ers
and it's
to a
still
Super Bowl.
Talked about to this day in a negative connotation most of the time. Right.
And so it's just the way that, and it also is going to vary league to league. Like this is just the NFL that we're talking about. But leagues like the NBA, for example, decided to embrace the Black Lives Matter movement, I would say more than the NFL did.
WNBA, personally, I don't think they get enough credit for all the endorsing and embracing of their players and the adversity that they have within their league.
Exactly. So it's always going to matter on the situation and the context in the league. But there isn't a right or wrong way to protest, I would say.
Going to our next question, but is there an obligation to protest?
Right. Well,
there is a right answer, by the way.
I think so too. I mean, you have so much like influence. Like we were just talking about, like we were influenced as young girls. you have all that social influence, but not only in the social way, because I don't think that you should be making a comment on things that you don't know about,
Correct. An educated obligation.
Right.
To
but you have so
respond
much
to these
money.
social issues.
You have a lot of monetary power that you can use to like not only fund your community, but like fund education, like really push people to like go educate yourselves. Like, LeBron does this a lot. He really got people out and voting. He like set up a voting booth in his school. Like, just you have all this power. It doesn't only have to be by expressing your views, but also by funding it. Especially in this world where everything is so expensive.
And like you said, going back to voting, like we live in a democracy. Like, why are we not? That is a obligation and it's a privilege to vote. Like, we're both women. Mm-hmm. We weren't allowed to vote until, you said 1933?
Mm-hmm. And black women
couldn't vote until 1965. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And people just aren't voting because they're not voting. And it's insane. So I do, answering that question, athletes do have an obligation to use their platform for social power, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not? Unless you're uneducated, then don't.
Right. If you're Nick Bosa, you can stay quiet. Which league do you think is the most progressive? Which one do you think like actually embraces its players and their authenticity?
Yeah, kind of touched on this like 2 seconds ago, but obviously there is a clear answer here, and that is the WNBA. But with what is going on in the WNBA, if you don't know, there is a big pay dispute. Their players are not getting paid enough for how they are performing and the
viewership that they're attracting.
It's just, so that's frustrating for a league that is extremely prominent in the
Black Lives Matter movement and the LGBT.
Yeah, just like super supportive and extreme like social movements that should be at the forefront of our brain.
Right.
And showcasing those movements. It sucks to see that these players are getting underpaid and treated the way that they're treated. And kind of touching ahead, it's like these players are not just here for our entertainment. It goes back to these players are people. This is their job, and they're not getting paid for the work that they're putting in.
Exactly.
I mean, these women are basically they're working overtime, and they're barely making minimum wage for the stage that they're on.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're making more than minimum wage, but you get the analogy.
No, I mean, it's absolutely right. Like, they should probably be close to mirroring the NBA's CBA. Like, NBA players make what, 50% of NBA revenue or something like that. Like, the NBA, I think the W is 8. That's ridiculous.
It's insane.
The growth of the W should be mirrored in their pay. So, yeah. I mean, and it also, I feel like another conversation that we can have about the treatment of athletes, the rise of betting has been so negative for the athlete.
What are your thoughts on that, actually? I'm so interested.
I personally am not a fan of betting. I know that it can be fun and it can be lucrative, but it's usually not. And it's actually addictive.
It's an addiction.
Like,
it's an addiction.
Psychologically addicting. It's really hard to like get out of it. And so it actually ruins people's lives because they are betting more than they have, and then they just continue the cycle because they think that they can win it back. And even if they do, then they just keep betting. It's this unbreakable cycle, and then it leads them like, oh, Kevin Durant scored 35 points instead of 36. Let me berate him and yell at him.
Let me go on Twitter
and
all these social medias and terrorize him because he didn't score one more point that I needed to meet my parlay or whatever it's called.
Exactly. And it's like these players don't care about your parlays. Like, this is you think that you have like this ownership over them because
you don't.
They're supposed to win you all this money. No, like this is their game. It's completely separate. And so it gives these fans all this power to like really be rude and awful to these athletes who, are going out to perform for you. Like this, I don't know. I think it's ridiculous.
And going above and beyond most of the time with staying after and doing autographs. And yes, these fans and this audience, they're paying hundreds of dollars to see you play and perform. So you do want to put on a good performance, but they don't owe you anything at the end of the day. This is their job. They come to work just like you go to work. Mm-hmm. Like that, I think, is another thing. We have a lot of things as society that we need to understand, like yesterday.
No, truly. But yeah, should we look forward to?
Yeah, let's look ahead.
What are we going to talk about looking forward?
Some interesting things.
A big one, the Super Bowl. is coming up.
Super Bowl, and why that there is so much controversy over our halftime performer. We'll get into that in the next episode.
Also, the Winter Olympics are starting in about a month. Things are really getting testy. They're getting heated. They're getting intense on the global stage. How is this going to impact the Olympics? I mean, there's precedents for political statements being made at the Olympics. A really big one. Tommy Smith and John Carlos.
That is like the most prominent one.
Yes, in the 200-meter race in Mexico City, they raised their fists.
That was an incredible protest.
Exactly. And even going back a little further, Hitler refused to shake Jesse Owens' hands after he won first place at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. So what is going to happen? Russian players are not representing Russia. They're independent athletes.
Which is another question we can bring up. Should athletes be punished for their country's actions, essentially? Because you can almost see it both ways, but I guess at the end of the day, how do you punish a country? If that's a way to punish, then I don't know what I'm saying.
Right. And also, why Russia and not the United States? The United States is
we're trying to take over Greenland
right now. Yeah,
we're trying to take over Greenland.
Exactly.
For why?
Right. And also just like what it means, because still, even though the United States is doing all this on the global stage, as soon as they come out in that opening ceremony, I'm going to be repping USA.
Same. I'm going to have USA across my chest. Literally. Red, white, and blue, face paint and all. I'm doing it. Go USA.
Oh my gosh. But then when it comes to the World Cup, I'm not Team USA.
Really? Who do you? That's fair. That's fair. Who do you support?
Colombia and Haiti, all the way.
I need to get into soccer more.
Oh my God, it's so fun.
As much into soccer.
Well, use the World Cup. The World Cup is a great way to get into soccer.
Okay, I'm there for it. But touching on the World Cup with what's going on held in the United States, rising tensions with ICE. A lot of Latino countries are coming over.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What does that mean for the World Cup? What does that mean for these countries competing?
I'd be scared to come, to be honest, if I was an outsider. I mean, you could just as easily be targeted by ICE.
How
are they going to... You're allowed to racially profile in the United States as decreed by the Supreme Court. So I don't know how people feel safe coming here, but another conversation.
But we will talk about race, gender, and fandom.
All of it.
All the current events in history. We're going to get uncomfortable, but we're going to have fun. So thanks for joining in. I'm Lexie.
I'm Monique.
Bye.
Signing off.